there to come together at this thing. So, of course, me being the nice guy that I was, then I realized she was on foot, had no way to get to the Cotton Bowl. I said, that's okay, we'll take you. And didn't ask Craig, it didn't matter, it was his car, but, you know, I did. And, you know, I was surprised. He was really not pleased about that. He really didn't want to have to drag some gal around Dallas-Fort Worth and get hooked into giving rides and become a taxi. And his car didn't even run that well to begin with. And he did it, but it was a little begrudgingly. Well, the rest of that week, Roxanne, Craig, and I became the Three Musketeers. And we were all, but when it was time to go to our places where we resided to sleep, other than that, we were pretty much together the whole time. And something began to grow. Something that was in part a little bit of what Craig was afraid of. He began to have feelings for this young woman that were other than sister in Christ, or in addition to. Eventually they would be married. Craig was a guy who back then had a big fro, you know, big black guy with a big fro, and Rox was one of the most energetic, vivacious, Jesus-freak girls I've ever met in my life. I had the opportunity to stand with them in their wedding. We walked through lots of stories of what God did in our lives. We walked through lots of growth together. It was an amazing time of fellowship. And Rox and Craig would move back to this area, attend school in Tulsa. We had a couple of really great years together, all of us. As I began to grow and I moved, Craig and Rox ended up in Cleveland. I stayed in touch with them, primarily with my mom staying in touch with their mom. And I began to learn that Rox was going through some illness. I didn't think it was any big deal. Rox was sick. It was later to learn that she had a disabling disease, that the vivaciousness began to go away because she couldn't be that anymore. They had 3 children. Actually, they had 4. We'll talk about that. But I didn't realize Rox was really that sick. In their marriage, they had some things happen that I want to share with you. 3 years ago, I was Thanksgiving Day at my daughter and son-in-law, the mom and dad of the 3 girls we had with us last time we were here. We were at their home for Thanksgiving Day, and I received a call on my cell phone. And I didn't recognize the number, but I thought, well, this is odd, and I answered it. And it was Craig. And Craig began to, actually was a friend first, and then Craig and Rox later. It was Jim Barb who was here with me. Jim began to share with me about their son, Nathan. Nathan is a young man who, you know, folks, I want to tell you, godly children do not always come out of godly homes. And children who come from godly homes do not always walk as godly children. Craig and Rox are 2 of the most godly people I've ever known in my entire life. Their son Nathan was a drug dealer, and I don't mean small time. I mean worldwide connection to what we say. Nathan was brilliant. Nathan was sick a lot. Nathan had rejected Christ, chosen drugs. He was a brilliant young man academically. It broke his mother and father's heart, and they continued to seek God. Over time and over prayer, at one point Nathan finally stepped away from the drug industry, from the illegal drug industry. And like the prodigal son, he came home. He began to establish once again a relationship with his parents and with his Christ. That Thanksgiving Day, at a very, very young age, Nathan got out of bed that morning and began to walk down the hallway every second morning he collapsed and was dead at 3. And Praying Rocks lost their son, who we had just redeemed on Thanksgiving Day. It was devastating. It was devastating for them. And I will tell you how they dealt with it in just a moment. Because that wasn't the last call. What I didn't tell you before was this was not the first child that they had lost. They had lost a newborn child as well a number of years before. So Nathan was number 2, except they got to watch him go to adulthood. They had 3 children. Well, 4. They had two boys that grew to adulthood and a girl. The girl was Kristen. Kristen was much like her mama. She was faithful, brilliant. She was a medical intern that had so much promise. She was sought after by hospitals throughout the area. She also had a disease. 3 months nearly to the day after Nathan's passing, Craig got a call at home that his daughter was comatose and hemorrhaging, and he was in the hospital. Thought it was something that was manageable and curable, and yet before he could come home to meet his wife, their daughter had passed away 3 months after his son. Where's God? Where's God? Those kinds of things happen in godly people's lives. Where's God when Rox would soon, through that process, learn that it was the very disease that disabled her, that unbeknownst to her, she carried in her body and was hereditary, and had killed her 3 children. It was hard for her not to internalize that and say, it's my fault. I did it. I killed my kids. Things that I love next in this world, next to God, and destroyed. Less than a year after that, after almost 30 years at the same job, Greg was dismissed. And not only was he dismissed from his job, he was told, you know what, try to go back into your field of expertise.